Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Questions from the Italian Football Podcast Patrons, where you, our patrons, decide what the show is about by simply sending in your questions via DM on Patreon. I'm joined as always by Carlo Garganese. So let's start with the first question, which has been sent in from Magnus Kaufman, who says, "Hi guys, have you noticed that Bastoni is playing more and more these last seasons? It's less missing games with a fever and small injuries and playing every 3 days every week. He played the most of all Inter's He played the most out of all Inter's players last season. Also, I think he looks a bit stronger and a bit bigger from 2024 and onwards. What a great defender he's become, and now he's entering his prime years as a defender. Thanks, guys. Magnus from Norway." I have noticed that he does play more, and he is the bedrock on which Inter's defense lies. This is kind of also why I want him to be the captain, not just because he plays a lot, not just because I think he's a world-class defender. I think that also in the terms of the kind of leader he is. I think he embodies the kind of values that the Inter captain needs to do. That maybe not be the loudest, maybe not be the biggest star, quote unquote, like the Bergomis, like the Javier Zanettis, like the Facchettis. Not the biggest star, not the biggest larger than life character, but a leader, a silent leader. Someone who calms everyone and leads by example. I think Bastoni has that, and I've thought this for a couple of seasons now, that I think that more than Lautaro, more than Barella, for me, Bastoni should be the captain. Building on all those things that Magnus said, that he plays more, he looks fitter, he looks more. He's so much more important. He is the bedrock on which Inter's defense lies. And so I think I want to see him as a captain at some point, the permanent captain. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's probably become the main man in defence now, especially with Acerbi getting a little bit older and with Pavard leaving. I think there's no doubts now who the main defender is now. That he is the one that's got to make the others better rather than him feeding off the others, or at least being their equals. I think it's no doubt now that he is the main defender for Inter. So it only makes sense that he's the kind of the more of the constant there in the defence, and that the others will, if there is to be any rotation among the others, it will be among the others.
Yeah, but he does rotate. I mean, this is what I like about what Kayode has done. I have to say, he has got the rotation spot on. He makes 5 changes pretty much every time Inter play 3 times a week. And it hasn't impacted, like I said on the Monday show, it hasn't impacted how Inter play in the sense of chance creation and dominating. So I am very happy that Kayode is cognizant of the fact that these players need to be rotated and can't overplay them. But yeah, Bastoni is one of those players that has been rotated a bit, but not too much. But like you say, he's very important. He is the foundation. Like Inter's foundation is him and Lautaro and Thuram and Barella. Those are the most important players Inter have. But I think there's more and more of an argument to be made that he is the most important player at Inter. Especially given how Barella has not really been too good he's been very inconsistent, I should say, rather, for quite a long time. Bastoni's been consistent. He's been consistent, and he leads by example. And I think at Inter, the captain has to be a calming influence as well. I don't think being this kind of larger than life character, who's someone who butts heads and yells and I don't think as a captain at Inter, I think you need to be a more calming, silent leader type. And I think Bastoni ticks those boxes. And I have to say, he's not, hopefully he doesn't get injured and none of that happens, and we don't have to worry about that. But I am excited to see what he can do now that he's going into the prime of his career, which he is entering. Those years are when you do your best, and I really like. I mean, he can play in the back 4 as well, even though he hasn't been tried too much at it. But I do think that defense for Italy as well. You got Gigio in goal. Your left back, you can have either Di Marco or you can have Calafiori, and then Buongiorno if he's fit, or Bastoni. It's looking good. It's looking good. I think we're finally looking at a block of players in defense and for Italy as well that can play in a back four and a back three, and then it looks really, really good and it works. And building on
the problem is the back four. The problem is not the players. It's that they don't seem to be able to play in a back four. Even I'd add Bastoni. I'm not convinced by him in a back four.
I think he can.
I'm not convinced from what we've seen in a back four. Absolutely not. What we've seen so far of him in a back four has not been good enough. It's not been anywhere near his levels in a back three, and I'd say that with a lot of the others as well.
That's fair, but I think he can. And speaking of that, we have another question which kind of ties into this, or we can tie it rather. I will tie it rather. Akbar P says, has Kayode been overlooked for the Azzurri? He might not start, but surely he deserves a call-up since he played well for Brentford. Before we answer his second part of his question, which is about Vlahovic, could that be a solution, you reckon? Like Michael Kayode as a right back for Italy?
I don't know. I need to see a bit more of him first. He needs a little bit more, but there isn't many options there. Italy are lacking in that right back department, seeing as Di Lorenzo still seems to play all the time, even though he's been terrible for Italy. For how many years has Di Lorenzo been underperforming for Italy? But he still seems to just play there because there's no one else to play. Di Lorenzo for Napoli, fantastic. For Italy, he's been bad for a long time.
I would argue that he's been okay and good for Napoli the last 2 seasons. But since the Scudetto, like the year they won the Scudetto, he was unbelievable. And 6 months after that. But then he just fell off.
He was a disaster the season after the Scudetto. Yeah. Disaster.
After 3-4 months, disaster.
Yeah. Last year, yeah, I think he was good last year.
Yeah, he was good, but he wasn't at the same
amazing,
level.
But he was good. He was good.
Yeah, and it's weird because I don't. It's weird how that drop off came, isn't it? Like,
maybe it's not him. It's like there isn't anybody that's really standing out that you'd say you trust them. I mean, would you trust Bellanova there? I don't think he's a.
No.
Well,
he is a wing back.
Well, he's a wing back, but then he's a wing back. Yeah. Kayode. I mean, Kayode in many ways is a wing back as well, though he's been playing, but I don't think he's a natural back four defender either. So it's Italy aren't blessed with too many options. But if they want a long thrower, Kayode's got the ridiculous long throw. Ridiculous.
I don't know, man. I think if you play week in, week out in the Premier League and you do so well, you should at least be in the conversation. And I think he has. I mean, he came. If you're
I'm saying he needs to play more. He needs to play more for Brentford.
Fair, but if I remember, when he did play in the back four for Fiorentina when he came up, didn't he?
Yeah, but I'm saying it's not his natural position. He's not really I don't think he's a natural as a right back. I don't think. I think he's trained. He's a trained right back.
Okay. We'll see. The second part of Akbar's question is, if Vlahovic has the season of his career, would you give him a new contract, considering how some players like Aubameyang, Perisic, Rabiot suddenly played well in the last year of their deals? It's an interesting point, isn't it?
Well, if he has the season of his career, then then that's another question. But let's wait for him to have that season of his career. Like, started the season well, but then the last few games he's had not so good. So. Yeah, we have to see. I mean, the game against Verona, he was really bad, and then it was the game against Atalanta. Didn't make too much of an impact. So we need to see that consistency over a longer period before we can even start talking about potential contracts, especially given the salary.
Yeah, that's a.
But no way. I don't care how well he's playing. You can't give him that salary.
They can't afford it.
Can't afford it. It's the club, and it means that you're weak. You have to be weak in other areas of the team and the squad, which Juventus are at the moment, and that's why you can't build a Scudetto winning team, because you're lopsided. You're too lopsided. It's a lopsided team Juventus have.
Yeah. Next question, Mathew Provenzano says, "Hi guys, hope you're both doing well. I got a question for the pod. As I'm writing this, I'm watching a video about the game that announced Paolo Maldini to the world. The video says that it was the 1994 Champions League final against Barcelona. Is this true? Also, this might seem crazy to ask, but how good was Maldini truly? I never got to see him in this prime. Thanks again. Take care." What the hell? The game that announced Maldini to the world was in 1994?
Where was this on? Where
He's
was?
watching. He said he watched a video where the title was "The Game That Announced Maldini to the World," and that this was the
Well,
Champions League
whoever
final.
made that video
What?
and said those words and allowed those words to be on the video should be sacked right now.
By 1994,
Paolo Maldini had already been,
how many European Cups had he won? How many?
that was his third, and he'd been
That was
world
his third.
class. He'd been world class for about 6 years.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean,
How
I
many-
think that the game that really announced Paolo Maldini on a global stage, he'd already been excellent in the Serie A because Milan had already won the Scudetto that season in 1988, was Italy versus Spain at Euro 88. It was the first game of Euro 88. Paolo Maldini was playing left back. He was marking Spain's star player, Michel, who was an absolute superstar in the making. He was being called, he's being described by some as maybe the best player or going to be the next best player in Europe. He was wanted by big Serie A clubs. I think Juventus tried to sign him or were close to signing him, maybe in that summer, maybe in 1988, or it could have been 1989. But he was the star of Real Madrid, the Quinta del Butre, fantastic player. And Michel was playing right midfield, one-on-one, direct man was Paolo Maldini, who was a 19-year-old. Michel was a fantastic player, and Paolo Maldini, teenage Paolo Maldini, just completely took him out of the game. It was a clinic, and that was the game that everybody stood up and thought, well, this is a really, really special talent. That's 1988, so that's 6 years before the Champions League final. How good was Maldini? I think he's the greatest. He's the greatest defender of all time. When you look at putting everything together, his ability, his number of trophies he won, his longevity. He played for 25 years at the top level, and probably about 20 years of that he was world class. How many players play for 10 years? If you find a player that plays for 10 years at a world class level, it's very, very, very few players to play for 20 years at a world class level. That's just insane. So for me, yeah, the greatest of all time.
For me, Baresi is the best central defender ever. I don't think there will ever be anyone as good as Franco Baresi as a central defender. But I mean, as a central defender goes, I think he was just surreal. I'm looking at the lineup of that team with Vicini's Italy. Zenga in goal, Bergomi captain to the right, Ferri Baresi in the middle, Maldini as a left back. I mean, that's
mad.
Ah, dear Lord in heaven. Yeah, that was yeah. But as for he's definitely just to answer Matthew's question, one of the greatest of all time.
I remember watching him many years later in 2005 in Champions League game at Old Trafford between Manchester United and
Milan.
And Maldini was playing left back that game as well at the age of 37, nearly 37. I think he was like a few months shy of his 37th birthday, and he was marking that game. He was marking Cristiano Ronaldo, who was playing right wing that game, and Ronaldo in that game didn't get a kick either. It was a clinic from Maldini. So we're talking 17 years apart that he's taken out two absolute, phenomenal players. Amazing.
Unbelievable. Next question, Jamie Drum. Hey guys, do you think Conte will get one last go at a club that is capable of winning the Champions League after he's done with Napoli? Or is he done after Napoli and maybe a national team job after Napoli? That's an interesting
question. Yeah, before we answer that question, just to say that this is the end of our free section of this show. So this is our Q&A that we do every, as Nima said at the start, that we do weekly, where we answer the questions from our patrons. This goes to our patrons, but we're putting out the just the first 15 minutes or so from this show for free to everyone. So if you want to listen to the rest of the show, including answering this question, then go to patreon.com/TIFP $3.99 a month, and you can listen to the show in full and all of our content that we do throughout the week, including our weekly midweek review show. And this week it will be on the Champions League, where we'll review all the Champions League matches involving the Italian team. So patreon.com/TIFP.
Or YouTube memberships as well, because that's where the video is posted. As all our content is full video as well. But yes, Carlos right. Patreon.com/TIFP or YouTube memberships. Go to youtube.com/@ItaFootPod and you can sign up there. Let's continue now with the question about Conte. I mean, I am of the opinion that we could be in a position now where Conte is entering the prime of his career, if he continues down this path with Napoli. So the question is, but here's the thing: I was talking to, I think it was, I was having a conversation with Patrick Kendrick about this. Like, where does Conte go? I don't see him going to Inter. I don't see him going to Juve. I don't think he's going to go back. I don't think he's going to go to Milan as long as Allegri's there. And I just don't think that works. So the big in Italy are all excluded. Real Madrid. You think he's going to go to Milan after Allegri?
Well, I think that if he wants to, for his legacy, which I think he is a legacy. I think he does have an eye of the legacy. Winning the Scudetto at Juventus, Inter and Napoli, but to win it with the big three, like no one has ever done, then yeah,
we'll see. But I mean, I just don't see Allegri leaving anytime soon. But the question is, the big in Europe, I don't see him going to Chelsea again. He burnt those bridges. I don't see him going to City. They don't play the football he wants to play. Liverpool, absolutely.
I think there's one club in the Premier League that's crying out for him, and
that's Manchester United. Yeah. That's Manchester United. That's the only job, but they're not big. But that means he has to rebuild again. I don't see him going to Real Madrid or Barcelona or PSG. Maybe Bayern Munich. He's crazy enough, and they are crazy enough. I think it might work, but I just don't see him going there. The football he wants to play, and so on. But so it's basically Bayern Munich or Manchester United. I think he stays at Napoli for a couple of years. And I think if he's able to create a run of Serie A wins, which seems to me very likely that he will win it at least 2 years in a row now, and if he can get a couple of Mercato the way that he's doing and build something, maybe do something historic in Europe, I don't know. But I do think he's going to stay at Napoli, unless something crazy happens. But I do feel that now
he's still young enough. He's 56 now. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up at Milan. Maybe not in the immediate future, but at some point, wouldn't be surprised if he goes there, tries to win the Scudetto with them,
and wins the Champions League with Milan as well.
Well,
we'll see.
Let's not get carried away, but yeah,
yeah. We'll see. But he does need that Champions League to show him, to kind of cement his position as one of the greats. But yeah, he's a legacy guy for sure. I mean, if he does, Capello won the Scudetto with Juve and Milan, won the Champions League with Milan, and he won it with Roma. He's won it with Napoli, he's won it with Juve, he's won it with Inter. If he can basically one up Capello by winning it with Milan.
Yeah. No, I think the difference with Capello is that, you're doing it with the big three, which is, it's just got that special ring to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, but Capello did it with Roma as well, which I think is
but I mean that no one's ever done it. Which is even more impressive because it's Roma, it's not the big three. But I mean, that actual Juventus, Milan, Inter to win it with all three is something that would be quite rare, because generally you don't get coaches that they might be attached to one of the teams that don't join their rival. Those are rivals, so it would make it a very rare accomplishment if he did that.
Yeah, it would. And I would love to see him with the Italy national team at some point to win something big with them. Would be unbelievable. Next question. Jacob Dunn says, hi, Nima and Carlo. Hope you're well. As you are an Inter connoisseur, Nima, I was wondering if you could explain what went wrong for Lippi during his time at Inter, and how the hell did Inter get knocked out by Helsingborg in the Champions League qualifying rounds? Well, I mean, San Siro Sven, as he's known, Sven Andersson, that save, a penalty save, which has become, I think it became a stamp as well in Sweden, like that frame of him saving. Sven Andersson, the goalkeeper. Did he save it from?
Who missed the penalty?
I think it was Recoba, wasn't it? Or was it Seedorf? I think it was Recoba, the penalty. I think I blocked that out of my memory. But yeah, Inter win a penalty at the Suns. That's why he's called San Siro Sven.
Keane played in that game, didn't he?
Who?
Am I remember that correctly? The Robbie Keane played in that game against Helsingborg.
Probably. But Inter win a penalty. I think it's Recoba. Yeah, it is Recoba. I'm pretty sure it's Recoba because it became a stamp. That penalty save became a stamp. Like in Sweden, if I remember correctly, they sold it because it was one of those iconic in the south of Sweden, Helsingborg, where they're from. Lippi. What went wrong for Inter? What went wrong for Lippi at Inter was that he didn't work at Inter at all. His feud with Baggio continued on. It just didn't. Everything was just wrong. He brought in, Peruzzi and Jugovic and all his like old Juve players, and it just did not pan out. It just was not. It just felt like a little bit of, players past their best, a coach that didn't fit in the club, had a feud with Baggio. It just didn't work. He did not work out at Inter at all, Lippi. It was a disaster.
That Inter team there, I compare a little bit to Juventus now in that, because I'm just looking at that team that lost to Helsingborg there, or drew 0-0 at home. It's like lopsided team, like a group, like a number of like big stars, but then some players that you just think, Macellari, Dario Simic, Benoit Koe, who's old, then Hakan Shuka. And then among that, you've got some big stars, big superstars like Seedorf, like Vieri, like Cordoba, like top, like Pirlo. Okay, he was a bit young then. Like it was just a lot like weirdly constructed team as well. Not taking away that obviously he struggled, Lippi, but it just wasn't. I don't think the planning just wasn't. The team wasn't built particularly well either. It didn't make it easy for the manager.
It was very poorly built.
That's how I see Juventus now. I just don't see like that isn't constructed very well. There's just gaps and it's lopsided and top heavy in some areas and weak in other areas, and players that can't coexist with one another. And that's how I always saw that Inter at the time, because they had so much ridiculous talent, but then they had areas of the pitch where they were like really weakened. And you just think, right, you've got 5 world-class strikers, but then you've got like, no left backs and like, do you know what I mean? It's just a bit bizarre.
Yep. And missing a penalty, which became a stamp, and it made Sven Andersson call him San Siro Sven in Swedish media because of that. But yeah, it was insane. And I remember Swedish media, because Inter lost that game away at Olympia against Helsingborg 1-0, and then
Inter don't have a good record against Swedish teams, do they? Because they got knocked out of the European Cup. The great 3 German Inter team lost to Malmo, wasn't it?
Malmo, Roy.
Yeah.
We spoke about it. We interviewed him about that. Yeah. And also IFK Gothenburg in 87, 0-0 at Ullevi and 1-1 at San Siro when IFK went on and won the UEFA Cup.
Mad.
Yeah, the Swedish teams Inter have generally struggled against them. Next question, Alex asks, what happened to Milan's defensive issues? Yes, the midfield is way better this season, but wasn't the backline also to blame? I don't see many changes there in the Mercato. Will these issues resurface in the big games to come from now until the end of November? What do you think?
Well, they've done well so far, haven't they? Obviously, Napoli did have a high XG in that last game, but I think that was partly circumstance, because they were down to 10 men for most of the second half. And if you look at the first half, didn't really concede that much. So yeah, I mean, listen, you have to give that to Allegri, because on paper, it's not a particularly strong back line or back 3. Let's say the centre backs. It's not a Scudetto worthy defense. Let's just be blunt about that. On paper, it's not Scudetto worthy defense. This defense shouldn't be winning the Scudetto. Obviously, it's 5 games in, so we'll see whether it can withhold having a good defensive manager. So far, Allegri's done a really good job tightening that defense and making it organised.
Yeah, he is. But I think the key to that is a certain Luka Modric as a regista, and I'll tell you why. I'm looking at a stat from Opta. Modric so far, after the first 5 match days in the Serie A this season, is first for the most successful passes, first for passes successful passes completed in the opposition's half. He's the first for the number of line breaking passes. He's first for possession won, and he's first for interceptions.
Wow.
At the age of 40.
First for interceptions. I mean, that's
interceptions.
That's a defensive stat.
That's
But that's why I said. That's why
and
I've
possession
said that,
won.
That's what's impressed me so much. It's not what he's done with the ball, because we know even at 40 years old that Modric is a phenomenon. He's a legend. He's one of the greatest ever on the ball, dictating the tempo, controlling the play. That first press breaking pass, even at 40, that little 5-meter dash to get out of trouble, amazing. It's what he's done off the ball with Milan, like you've just said, the possession ones, the interceptions, and to be leading the division in these areas is absolutely astonishing. And that's why if he keeps this up, I mean, we're talking about, potentially Milan can surprise us. And we're talking about a player that's going to be in the talk for player of the season.
Yeah, no doubt. He's been ridiculous. I think he's been the most important player. And that the fact that they're playing once a week is such a good thing for them as well. But yeah, it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. It's unbelievable. He is a phenomenon, and I'm just so glad that we get to see him in the Serie A. Next question.
To see him play well. We're not seeing a washed up. He doesn't look washed up, does he? He looks like a player still at a very, very high level.
And he's doing it in that regista role as well, tying everything together. Hat is lifted. Next question. Leo says, is there space for Frattesi in Chievo's Inter? Well, the question is there space for Frattesi at Inter at all?
The weekly Davide Frattesi question on the Q&A. Every week we have a question about Frattesi.
Well, because it's a thing, because everyone wanted to blame Inzaghi for it. Chievo was essentially just playing how Inzaghi did, and then all of a sudden the problem hasn't gone away. It's like, no shit. Doing the same thing and expecting different results. Frattesi doesn't work in this Inter if he's going to play like this. It's as simple as that. And yet no one wants to address it. So maybe this was just a bad buy, or not a bad buy, but a buy that he's not going to start for Inter playing this way, whether it's, this kind of football. And Chievo is continuing with Inzaghi ball. So the problem hasn't gone away. It's just a different man in charge of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. What would you make of it? Should he leave?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think we've seen enough now to see that. Yeah, he's not going to start, is he? He's not going to start. He's not a starter. And if you're not a starter, I think you need to leave. Someone like Frattesi, he's not, like, we know his limitations, so there's no point going over that. But regardless of that, he's got enough qualities that I think he should be playing for a club that he's starting for. If he wants to make a career, he can't just be a sub player.
So where does he go? Where does he go?
Well, probably not one of the biggest clubs. We're probably talking about a Roma or a team like that.
I'd say
Roma,
as long as Antonio
Roma,
Conte,
Lazio, Fiorentina, this kind of level.
But as long as Antonio
Conte,
as long as Antonio Conte is at Napoli, that's where I think he gets the most out of his career if he goes somewhere. But Inter are not going to give him to Antonio Conte.
Possibly, but he's not. How much is he going to play for Napoli? They've already got 4 central midfielders that they're shoehorning into the team.
Well,
sign another one.
Well, if the De Bruyne situation explodes,
he's not playing ahead of them. He's not playing ahead of those 4. So he's already 5th in the pecking order there, and you got Billy.
Yeah,
Gilmore.
but if the situation explodes with De Bruyne, and this problem continues that has been brewing. Let's just say that I hope Inter ask for the moon, as they say in Italy, if Napoli comes calling. Yeah, you give us Buongiorno, you can have Frattesi, because Buongiorno and a back three in the middle of that back three with Inter and Bastoni. Yes, please. Next question. Cesare Mainardi says, hey guys, what youth prospect did you believe was going to be the next big thing but was never able to pull it together? I'm thinking of Marco Livaias, Belfodils, and at the higher end, Recoba and Balotellis of the world. My father was convinced that Lampros Choutos was going to be the Greek R9. I remember Lampros Choutos. As for Belfodil, I have no idea who that person was who thought that he was going to be the next best thing. I did not. Recoba and Balotelli. Recoba was injured. I mean, he had a good career overall. Recoba, I think it's, he was not Balotelli level or Belfodil or Livaia or something like that.
Recoba still had a good career, but he had the ability to be a really one of the best in the world, I think, and at times he was. Like he had moments that he had world-class moments. He was a bit like Rafael Leao, actually. Obviously, Rafael Leao has that Scudetto that season.
Well, so does him, but he was MVP, but he wasn't yet.
But with Leao being the main man, being a protagonist. Whereas Recoba, I think, had world-class moments.
Yeah,
but didn't have that consistency.
I can say that Daniel Bessa is probably the best youth team player I've ever seen play football in my live. He was surreal. I really, really expected big things from him, but before he was even 19, he had so many injuries that just ruined his career. But he's one of those players that was just breathtaking in midfield. He was so mature for his age. So I'm really disappointed that he never made it. Because of the injuries. So
I think Davide Sanson is somebody that looked like, even Lippi called him a predestinato. So I think that he was somebody that really could have been something. But there's others. I wouldn't say I thought these players were going to be superstars, but I thought they were going to have really good careers and potential. Italy and Marco Motta, I remember. Fabiano Santacroce. I remember when he burst onto the scene, it was unbelievable. And then some of the stories I've heard about Santa Croce and his nightlife, he used to just be out all the time.
Extracurricular activity.
Yeah. And then there's Balotelli, there's Cassano. Cassano so much. I still had a really good career, but could have
but Cassano, Cassano was just, that's the biggest disappointment. He's an idiot, but it's a shame because the talent he had was surreal.
Yeah,
absolutely surreal. Next question comes from Frelyn Aguilar. 3 things. 1, should the Azzurri grow out their hair like the early 2000s so they can actually win and become legends? Lol. I don't want them to do that because I think that in order to have long hair, you have to have the talent of Totti, Del Piero, and Maldini. It's like with the white boots. You know what I mean? Like you have to earn that.
Well, I made that joke. I've made this joke already, like a few months ago. I said that when Italy, I said that when the Italian team were all handsome and had long hair and were handsome and looked like Greek gods, that's when they were amazing. Since they've become ugly and had short hair, we've been useless. So, the Italy team's kind of got ugly over the last 10 years, compared to the turn of the century. They were all models. They were all remember they did that Armani.
No, it was the Dolce Gabbana. It was the Dolce Gabbana. That was.
But then we did the Armani suits as well. But
No, I'm with.
So maybe once we start producing some better looking players, we'll start getting good again.
Listen, Cannavaro, Nesta, Totti, Del Piero, Maldini. You have to play at that level in order to have. Buffon. You have to be at that level. You have to be at that level in order to have the long hair. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. You can't just grow it out. 2, he asked, why is Gabbia
Robbie Savage? Otherwise, you're like Robbie Savage. You know what I mean? Had long hair, but shit.
Why is Gabbia still overlooked for the national team? I might be biased, but he's been great since his loan spell.
I think he's just a serviceable player.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's really got the talent to be Italy national team. I'll be honest. I don't.
I'm saying. And his 3rd question is, have you noticed that Deschamps dislikes Milan? Kalulu won the Serie A with Milan and didn't even consider him. As soon as he joins Juve, he gets called up right away. Oh, anti-Milan discrimination with a French twist. Interesting.
I don't know. Magnon. Magnon's been number 1 for a while, and And who else? Teo Hernandez played quite a bit, and I'm sure Rabiot will play quite a lot now. So I don't know. I just think that Kalulu, yeah, I mean, I don't think Kalulu will go to the World Cup. I don't. I think France have got a lot of other better centre backs than Kalulu. I would actually say Deschamps is one of the few examples of pro-Italy discrimination. Is that or favoritism?
Yeah,
What's the right way of putting it?
He's pro, yeah.
He's pro-Italy. Like, he gives chances to some Italy players, some Serie A based players that probably he fast tracks them ahead of others.
Who do you think? Who are you thinking?
I think there's been quite a few. Like, I'm not saying they're not good players, but like Kalulu's probably an example. I think there's better centre backs. France have got an abundance of great centre backs, like Kalulu, but like even like somebody like Manu Kone, I think is amazing, and I think he deserves to be in the team now. But like, he was getting a call up pretty early before he'd really proven himself in Serie A. Don't get me wrong, he deserves to be in there. He probably deserves to start. He's amazing. I love him. He's fantastic. But like, I think he's fast tracked quite a few. Like, they've got opportunities quicker because of Deschamps' love for Serie A.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining. Yeah. It's about time we got a bit of favoritism, but usually it's the other way around.
Yeah. Fair enough. Next question. Chris Weir says, "Hi guys, loving the pod. Question for the pod, and ignore if it's already been asked. I'm a big fan of the Championship Manager 01-02 game, having just started another save with the Fiorentina that has Alex Manninger in goal. One of the best players in the game was Cristiano Doni, but I'm wondering just how good he was in the real world. Could he or should he have been better known and appreciated outside of Italy? I know that there were some issues towards the end of his career, but we'll leave that to one side. Thanks for the great content. Cheers, Chris."
Yeah, that Championship Manager 01-02 game, and for a few years around, because I used to play it at the time, Championship Manager when I was at school was Atalanta. They used to, talking about favoritism, they used to make so many Atalanta players class. Like, they used to
Wasn't
love
the Zanonis? The Zanonis were unbelievable.
The Zanoni brothers they made them all become world class. There was the Doni was one of them. There was Gianpaolo Bellini, I remember. Some really randoms, Inacio Pia, like some real like randomers that were who was the striker that went to Milan? Comandini.
Gianni Comandini.
Saldati. Do you remember these guys? Like, they all were class.
Saldati,
they all went to become Italy regulars. So I think they were like overrated. But Atalanta did also have a really good youth system. They always had one for a long time. Yeah. So they made them good. But Cristiano Doni was a good player. I mean, he started the 2002 World Cup for Italy. He started that first game against Ecuador, which we won. And he was someone that had a really good long shot. He had the long hair as well. He had long hair. Maybe couldn't pull it off.
He looked the part.
Yeah. He was a good player. Had a good long shot, attacking midfielder, a bit of a late bloomer. And I think he had a really outstanding season, that 2001-02 season. That's why he got the kind of like the chance for the Italy national team. But yeah, he was a good player. Always 10 goals a season. You kind of knew that you're going to get goals from him. Good fantasy player to have, Cristiano Doni.
Yeah, I remember. You're right. Yeah, but he was one of those who never really was able to. If you remember way back, Championship Manager, there was always Pierluigi Orlandoni or Orlandini, I think it was.
Pretty highly rated as a youngster, though, because I think he was at Parma. Might have been at Milan
Atalanta.
as well.
He was Atalanta. I always bought him from Atalanta. And Marco Piovanelli, I used to buy from Brescia. He used to always do well. Yeah, it was fun. Championship Manager.
Yeah, Atalanta used to get overrated, the youngsters there, like Everton, because the creators of Championship Manager, the Collier brothers, were Everton fans, and they used to make all the Everton players used to become like world class.
Brilliant. I love it. Next question. Marty Glenn says, "One thing that caught my attention was a video of the Ferrari fans at Monza celebrating Charles Leclerc's victory last year, but the audio was actually Milan fans singing Sarà perché ti amo. I recognized it right away, but it had me thinking about the best songs or chants that Italian curva sing, either pre-match or during the match. For me, I'll never forget singing Storia di un grande amore at my first Juve match. Some other great ones are definitely Napoli singing Un giorno all'improvviso, although most teams in the south sing this now, or Pescara with Gente di Mare. Honorable mention is to the Euro 2020 song Ma quale di età. But what are your favorite songs or chants across Italian football? Also, we need Palermo back in Serie A because their atmosphere is incredible. Yes, we need both Palermo and Catania in the Serie A as soon as possible. I want to have a Sicilian derby in the Serie A as soon as possible, so agree on that. What are your favorite songs? I love Napoli. You know Napoli's Maradona.
You're talking about
song.
fan chants, you know, like that they just come up with. I don't think Italian fans are very good at fan chants.
Really?
Not the improvised ones, the ones that they come up to like dedicate to a player. You know, like you have fan chants. I think in England they're much better at that. But if you're talking about club chants, I think there are some fantastic ones. I mean, I like all of them. I like Juventus, I like Inters, I like Roma, I like Lazio, I like Napoli's. I mean, Napoli. When they get
the hymns, the club hymns.
The club hymns, I think, are all fantastic. I don't think I could pick one. I think they're all amazing. The Fiorentina one, all of them. The club hymns are amazing, and so and also I love it. Listen, I've got a soft spot for Napoli. The way that they bring out the Neapolitan music before and after the games as well, I think is amazing. So, yeah. But in terms of actual kind of improvised curva chants, I don't know. Have you got any?
I love the Maradona chant that Napoli fans used to sing back then.
Mamma.
Yeah.
Ho
visto Maradona.
sai perché innamorato son. Ho visto
I love
Maradona. Yeah, I mean that's a good one. There was a lot of good Maradona ones. There was probably about 10 of them actually. So that's a good point. Yeah, there used to be a website. They might even still be around. I used to go on it about 20 years ago, where they actually put all the fan chants on the website. You could listen to all of them, and they've been adapted into music as well.
There's also sometimes
Maradona. They used to do one Maradona e meglio di Pelé as well.
Yeah.
Maradona e meglio Pelé, and then some lots of Neapolitan music.
There was one that that Napoli fans used to sing about Benito Carbone, which I thought was hilarious. It was first Maradona, then Gianfranco Zola, now Benny Carbone, which I thought was really, really funny. But there's one that I really like, and that is when they do sarcastic chants to one another. Like when Milan Inter fans started singing the Kaká chant the season after he was sold. Just to wind Milan fans up. Siamo venuti fin qua per vedere segnare Kaká. Just to rub it in that he was no longer there.
I think the issue that I have with a lot of the Italian fan chants is that they just use the same 2 or 3 chants and then just put words over it. It's always the same one. The same few chants. What do you call it? Like the music behind it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The same melody. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's quite a few good ones. I think Juve fans, when they sing "You're just like Juve" to the opposition team when the referee doesn't give them a penalty, it just makes me piss myself.
And that's always fun. Like when you can kind of self-mock yourself, that's always good. You know, like when Inter used to do the Marotta. I mean, it wasn't a chant, but they used to do the Marotta. They used to hold the Marotta League signs up, like to kind of like self-mock. Like I thought that was quite funny.
Yeah,
as well.
It's hilarious. Yeah, but you're right. English football chants are much more fun. Which one is it? I think
they're ruder as well. Like they take the piss. You know, like I used to remember when like Beckham used to play every single. I've been there at stadiums when he's playing. Every single the opposition fans would sing about Posh Spice takes it. Yeah, I won't repeat them all.
That interview with Ali G, when he gets her to sing that, and he says, "That is the greatest compliment you can give to a woman." I died. He's too much, man. Like that was so. Sacha Baron Cohen was like Ali G was a funny character.
The Trump interview was a great one.
So but just generally English football fans. I think it's Brighton fans who they used to sing. Is it Brighton that they say there's a big gay community or whatever? Is it Brighton or is it?
Yes, Brighton. Yeah.
And fans used to say, where are your boyfriends? And they used to sing back, he's sitting right next to you, which made me laugh a lot. I thought that's brilliant.
Yeah, you get that a lot. You get like the Chelsea rent boys. You get that a lot as well.
That's fun. I love the banter in football. It's hilarious. Yeah, so there you got a couple there. Jack Hacken says, "Hi Carlo and Nima, got another question for the pod. Which Udinese team and what players from the past to present have been the most memorable? Di Natale and Alexis Sanchez come to mind easily, but I want to know some more. I always like Udinese, and I think they're always in the Serie A based on merit. Even now, they got good players like Sole and Christensen and a proper coach in Runjaic. Someone who, if he continues like this, who could be a candidate for the Inter Milan job. Lots of love, Jack." I like Runjaic, but
there's three Udinese teams that stand out for me over history. The first recently that everyone will remember was the team around 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12, kind of 4-5
Guidolin.
Yeah, Guidolin, where they had, their scouting system was world class at that time. They were finding, unearthing, and developing so many fantastic young players.
Benatia, Isla, Handanovic in goal, Gökhan Inler,
Alexis
Sanchez, Di Natale, Zapata, yeah. Was it around then they had Yaquinta? Was that just before?
They had a few talented players just before that, Udinese as well. Yeah, incredible, and that was a fantastic team. Di Natale was just unreal, and they were getting to the Champions League, and they were just a wonderful team. They were a great team to watch. They played great football, really exciting, fantastic. So that team. Then you had the team from Zaccaroni's team that finished third in Serie A when they had that kind of like 3-4-3, and up front they had that really exciting attack of Oliver Bierhoff in the middle, and then Paolo Poggi and Amoroso, which was just wonderful. And they had Thomas Helveg as well. And who else did they have? Who else did that Udinese team have? Was it Morgan De Sanctis? Was he Udinese? De Sanctis?
Yeah, De Sanctis is definitely Udinese.
De Sanctis was Udinese. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was a fantastic team. Luigi Turci actually was the goalie. Was actually the goalie back then. Yeah, so that was that team that did really, really well and did well in Europe as well. And then going further back into the 1980s when they signed Zico, probably the best player in the world. Udinese signed the best player in the world, which is just mad, from that special Brazil 1982 World Cup team. And they had Zico, and then they had another brilliant Brazilian national team player, the captain of the Brazil national team, Edinho, who was a centre-back, who was also a fantastic player. They had Edinho and Zico in the same team. They also had Franco Calcio, who was old but still a really good player. So that Udinese team as well. I mean, that's when Serie A was the best. That's when there was a 2 foreigner rule, and almost every single team in Serie A had 2 world-class foreigners in their team, and Udinese's were Zico and Edinho. So that was a great Udinese team as well to watch.
I agree. Those are my favorite Udinese teams as well. Some we do. Yeah, they're a cool club. They definitely had some cool players and some cool additions, and of course when they destroyed Palermo 7-0, I think those Guidolin years when Zamparini afterwards, of course, being Zamparini, was asked, he basically went on a rant saying, he's ruined my team. I can't remember who the coach was. He's absolutely destroyed my team. He's ripped it apart. And then a journalist says, so you're going to sack him? He's like, I've not decided yet. Zamparini. God bless. Rest in peace. Next question.
No, we don't want him to. We want there to be more Zamparini chaos. We want him to. That was the best thing about him. There was never any peace with him. He was always.
Yeah, he was quite the character.
The Pirates comment was the best ever. When he called the English pirates. they come over, then they loot us, they loot all our gold. Brilliant.
He's so good. He was brilliant. He was a kid. But whether or not Costa Runjaic could be one day at Inter, that's an interesting proposition. If he could be on one,
he's your kind of coach, I can tell you that.
Like you.
personally. You love those kind of coaches.
I do. Right. Next question. Nick says, "Good morning, Anima and the ballistic baker from Bedford." Brilliant. As I watch the Sassuolo Udinese match being played in a half-empty stadium, I can't help but feel like there's absolutely no saving the Serie A. You would think that a newly promoted team at home on a clear Sunday could draw a crowd, but alas, no, it's not like this is a one-time occurrence. How many times now have we seen half-empty stadiums across the Serie A? You don't see the Premier League having this issue or the Bundesliga. Multiple times a year, the Premier League with NBC, USA networks take over the US cities and have major events like they just did in Kansas City. Meanwhile, all Paramount Plus can muster up is sending those two dipshits to a small deli in Boston and act like they're accomplishing something. Jesus. I don't think we're ever going to see the Serie A get out of its own way until they clean house entirely, which won't happen. We also won't see any new stadiums because Italians just love bureaucracy, and we all know that nothing really gets accomplished in Italy. They just talk about things for decades on end. The Serie A is still resting on its laurels and act like it's 1997, when in reality the league is becoming a feeder league. Carlos says club football is dead, but I think maybe it's just the Serie A that is the walking dead. Thanks, Nick from Philly.
Well, it's not just the Serie A, because I'm sorry, look at Liga. Liga is a total shambles, honestly. If you think Serie A is struggling to sell TV rights, honestly, France, the Liga can't sell TV rights anywhere. But have a look at the list of countries and territories around the world that bought Liga and TV rights. It's scary. It is scary, like the state of that league. And all it is PSG. That's it. And the rest of the league is broke, completely broke. Bundesliga is a well-run league, but it has a very, very low financial ceiling, which makes it impossible for them to compete on a European level. Bayern Munich aside, to an extent, even Bayern, like the Italian clubs, can't buy any of the best Bundesliga players anymore. They all go abroad, like Florian Wirtz and Voltemada were wanted by Bayern, and they got rejected by Bayern and went to bigger, or well, not bigger, big, or not even big in Newcastle State. I mean, not compared to Bayern. And then the La Liga is a completely broke league where it's just. I mean, Barcelona are pretty broke themselves. Barcelona, Real Madrid, and that to an extent Atletico, and the rest of the league is broke. So it's not just that Serie A is walking dead; it's all the leagues. But yes, as we've discussed and we said on Monday, Nima said fantastically at the end on the Prem face or Serie A of the week. The league is obviously run by complete incompetent morons.
Fernando Carro, the CEO of Bayer Leverkusen, literally just said this. The Premier League is looking to become the number one product in Europe, leaving the Champions League behind it. Normally, I'm against regulations, but in this instance, I think a battle is necessary. I mean, this is what you and I have been saying for years, and why I was very vocal about that. Although the European Super League was not perfect, it was better than the status quo for the clubs that aren't part of the Premier League. It was bad for the Premier League, but it would have been better for the non-Premier League clubs to counter this some way. That was the argument, and I think I'm right about that.
Yes, but not closed. Not a closed Super League.
Yeah, I don't really care. I mean, it's like...
not a closed Super League.
Andrea Agnelli said it best. He said, if you look at likelihood, and if you don't have a closed your Champions League, what risk is it that those teams don't make it to the Champions League? And I think he has a point. But yeah, fair enough. The sporting aspect closed, but okay, fine. But to answer Nick's point about attendance, one thing the Bundesliga has done really well is that they've decided not to outprice their fans. And that's why they have some of the highest attendances in Europe.
But that's also why they have a low ceiling because of that, which I respect. And I think I wish it was like that. And if there was regulation in football, which we absolutely do need, then that would be possible in all leagues. If we regulated, if there were rules, you can't charge more than X amount, blah, blah, blah. And football needs to be regulated. Football is a sport. It needs to be recognized that it's a sport. It's not a business. I mean, it is business to an extent, but it is a sport. And a sport, like all games, need rules. That doesn't mean we've all suddenly turned fascist. It just means that it's a game. And you have rules in games. When you play a football match, you go onto the pitch, you have rules. If the ball goes out of play, it's a throw-in. You don't suddenly get people saying, oh, no, we can't regulate football. You can't make a rule that if the ball goes out of play, it's out of play. It's a rule. It's part of a football game. It's a rule. And that should be the same off the pitch, that you should have rules. And that's why when football was more regulated and you had the 3 foreigner rule, you couldn't get teams that just monopolize all the best talent in the world, even if they had all the money in the world, because they weren't able to buy more than 3 foreigners. That's just one example. You know, you couldn't sign players under the age of certain ages because that wasn't allowed. Those are called rules. You need rules in football. If you don't have rules, you get what's happened now. It's unregulated and it's dominated and monopolized. As simple as that.
It's not harder than that, really. I mean,
Seriously.
it's simple as that.
If shit libs are offended because I said that, then fuck off. It annoys. I'm sorry, Nima, but it annoys me when people say, "Oh, but you can't regulate. It's a business."
Why not? Says who? Like everything
regulate.
is regulated. Like, what are you talking about? The reason we have rules is to balance things out. Otherwise, it's chaos. What do you mean? Like, it's not like what? No.
No, but you know what they say? They say, "Oh, yeah, but there's employment rules and there's the EU rules. You can't stop people moving countries if they want to move." There's no wrong with them countries, but if they want to play a sport that has rules, a team should have a certain limit of should have limits, and I think they should. I think there should be a limits on foreigners. I do, and I don't think that's discriminating at all. I think it's just part of it's a sport. I'm not saying they can't come to the country. I'm not going all full Nigel Farage and banning immigration. You know, I'm just saying that if we want to have a fair and equal sport, you need to have rules. As simple as that.
I love when you go full on boomer. It's like, oh my god, I love it when you just go off on one. So
but you agree with me, though. That's the thing.
Of course, I agree with you. It's just the way you say it is hilarious. You need rules. Can't have a society without rules.
Velocitator. What's it called? What's the thing what does Mr. Burns call
rules.
it?
Need rules in order.
What does Mr. Burns call was it the velocitator or something? What is it you always say to piss out?
And the develocitator, I think it was when he was learning how to drive by himself.
So velocitators, what's that? Is that like the accelerator? Or?
Yeah, he came up with a word for it.
The velocitator, what's that? The brake.
It was the brake.
Right. Okay. I'll start using
brilliant.
that one.
So good. I need to find that clip and send it to you. It's one of the best ever. Yeah. Next question. Alfio says, "Ciao, Carlo Nima. I got a question about the notion of the best league. I find the conversation is always skewed to the EPL being top, but I don't quite understand it because it's not the best football. End of. Serie A and La Liga are fiercely competitive for the most part, namely the former. What are your thoughts on this debate? Why is it that the EPL is considered the best league in terms of quality? Because it has the most money. It's like saying it's like saying Avengers is the best movie because it makes the most money. Make it make sense."
Well, listen, I think at the end of the day that you just have to look at the results to an extent. But I think that what's the point here that it's not the best football? I mean, the best football that's always subjective. That's a taste thing to an extent, isn't it? So I don't think you can't say yes, it's definitely the best football because that's a subjective thing. But who's got the best players? Who's got the most valuable players? Which teams are the most valuable? Forget about transfer fees. It is the Premier League. There's no doubt about that. When you look at the results, yeah, maybe the Premier League hasn't won as many Champions Leagues as they should have done over the last 5 years, 10 years, based on their dominance. But if you're going to look in the next 10 to 20 years, you're going to see more and more dominance in terms of results because of that.
That's exactly the point. And as for the best league, I mean, is it in terms of competitiveness? Well, then maybe the Premier League is not the best if that's your main parameter. But if you the best players and the best produced product, I don't think it's a debate. I mean, barring a PSG and a Real Madrid and Barcelona.
No. Yeah, and the best quality down, in terms of going down the league, I don't think it's even debate. I mean, relegation teams are beating our biggest teams to the players, So that's the equivalent of a team like Sassuolo or Cremonese So that's the equivalent of Cremonese beating Manchester City to a player. What would we all say if that happened? Do you know what I mean? Sunderland are beating, Sunderland are beating Milan and Juventus to Granit Xhaka. Team that's just got promoted. That's like Cremonese beating Manchester City to Reinders, to Gianni Reinders, or Gianluigi Donnarumma. So when you look at it like that, it's scary.
It is scary, and I think something needs to be done. Sanat says, "Hi, Carlo Nima. I hope you're well. With a surge in ACL and other injuries, often severely impacting a player's overall earning potential, I was wondering if there's been any impact to the insurance that clubs or players carry. Are there higher premiums? Are contracts being structured differently to reflect the higher risk? I'm curious how players and clubs are handling this new grim reality of increased injuries in the game." It's an interesting one, isn't it? I know that... Yeah, sorry.
Yes. Impossible to say, but we don't have access to see what the insurances are. But I would say that that's almost certain. It's like any insurance. Not only are the insurance people that run insurance like crooks, let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
Let's just be honest. It's also based on risk, and that's why if you go and get car insurance, a 17-year-old's car insurance is going to be a hell of a lot more than somebody with 20 years on the road with no accidents, because a 17-year-old is more likely to crash their car. So if you're insuring club or players in an age where ACLs, as we said last week, ACLs have gone up 29-fold in the last 2 decades, then of course the insurances are going to be higher, because the risk is much higher, isn't it? It's just basic logic.
No, I think that's a good point, and it is an interesting one, and that's why clubs always moan about international football as well. That, listen, we haven't done anything. They go away and they come back injured because they're tired of them having to carry the burden of the risk, which does make sense. But at the same time, like you said, it's a sport, and football's beauty is in... international football, I got to be honest with you, it's not the best, but I find it the most fascinating and interesting to follow, really.
Because it's more real.
Yeah.
It's still got a soul. It
has a soul.
Yeah, you can't monopolize and cheat to just buy all the best.
No.
We might risk of being hypocritical. Italy have stolen. They've been a little bit, like bent the rules a little bit, let's say, to get some players.
If you have heritage,
they've taken advantage of the more liberal rules in being able to get players with grandfathers that are Italian,
emigrated to Argentina.
Yeah, emigrated to Argentina in 1890, and they've managed to nab them. But yeah.
No, it's... I get that, but yeah, I do agree with you that the soul discussion is true. International football does have a soul, and club football, unfortunately, at the highest, does not have. It's just it's a commercial product. It doesn't have... It's show business more than anything else, and that's the reality of it. Right, those are all the questions you guys had sent in this week. Please do continue to send in your questions via DM on Patreon to us, and we'll add them. And remember, please keep them under 100 words or less. And we'll be back later in the week with a Thursday review pod of the Champions League. Make sure to check out the Monday pod, which we recorded as well. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ciao, ciao.